District B13 is a land full of violence, a place where schools don't exist, nor is there even a post office. Even the last police station is planning to pack up and leave. This place has long become a paradise for underground gangs and drug lords because the government has practically abandoned it, not bothering to intervene. To keep the outside society from being tainted, their only solution was to erect a towering wall to completely isolate this place from the peaceful world. Although the place is filled with the smell of gunpowder and drugs, there is still someone who has kept a pure soul. That person is Lito, a young man who always lives for justice. He is not involved in the trade of illicit goods. On the contrary, he is a nightmare for the kingpins who spread the White Death here. One day, the giant K2 came looking for Lito right at his building. His two loyal followers immediately drew their hot weapons and pointed them straight at his head. But K2 remained calm, arrogantly smirking in defiance. He shouted, "Do you know who I am?" He, quick as a flash, took down and broke the necks of Lito's two followers without a shred of mercy. Just then, Lito had just intercepted a shipment from Taha, their powerful boss. It was a full 20 kilograms of white powder. Lito was determined to destroy this entire dangerous shipment. K2, under Taha's orders, immediately led a swarm of his men to find him. He was known for his ruthless methods, treating human life as if it were trash. Hearing the echoing gunshots, Lito knew the situation had become very tense and immediately sought to get rid of the goods, sending them far away. K2's men quickly stormed the room, but Lito was ready. He charged out, risking his life in a confrontation. K2 wanted to capture him alive, so he ordered his men not to shoot. In a decisive moment, Lito suddenly unleashed skilled martial arts moves. His movements as swift as the wind, he rushed outside and escaped in the nick of time. He moved from building to building, jumping from high floors to low. The henchmen who dared to follow met a truly disastrous end. For fun, Lito also conveniently gifted them a few blows. Finally, he climbed the fire escape and launched himself onto the roof. A powerful somersault took him to another rooftop, leaving the henchmen staring blankly. K2 brought a dozen of his underlings, spent so much effort, but in the end, came back with absolutely nothing. Their faces turned pale, drained of blood, not knowing what to say to Taha. The boss was furious at losing a shipment worth €1,000,000 and coolly rewarded each man with a lead candy on the spot. Luckily, K2 was quick-witted and used his big belly and thick-skinned face to save the situation. He suggested that Lito had a younger sister named Lola, and if they could kidnap her, they could lure him into a trap. Taha nodded, giving him one more chance, with the added threat that if he failed again, he shouldn't even bother coming back to collect his own corpse. K2 immediately led his men to the supermarket where Lola worked with a dark plan. He brazenly kidnapped Lola in broad daylight, and anyone who witnessed it treated it as a normal occurrence. The people around, used to the sight of gangsters running rampant, didn't bother to intervene. As for the police, they stood by idly like wooden statues, as no one wanted to poke the hornet's nest. K2 took the girl straight to the organization's headquarters, a place so heavily guarded that even a fly would find it hard to get through. Here, they openly produced and distributed illicit goods, treating it as a daily routine without any hesitation. The deeper one went, the more it became clear that Taha nurtured a team of notorious assassins, ready to do anything to protect his power. When brought before K2, Lola unexpectedly fought back, giving him a painful scratch on the hand that drove him mad, and he dragged her to see the boss, Taha. Just then, he sent his men to spread the news to lure Lito into a trap. He thought this time he would surely capture the stubborn man. But life isn't like a dream. As the boss was gloating, Lito suddenly landed from above like a god, a cold blade pressed against his neck. He quickly subdued Taha, turning him into a hostage. With the boss in his hands, Lito and his sister walked out confidently amidst 100 guns pointed directly at them. Even the once arrogant bald-headed man was taught a lesson he'd never forget. So humiliated, he even took off his underwear without daring to make a peep. Pressing their advantage, the two siblings successfully escaped the encirclement, put Taha in a car, and drove straight to the police station, despite the rain of bullets pouring down like a storm. With strength and determination, Lito dragged Taha into the station to present him to the inspector, along with 5 kilos of illegal drugs as evidence. However, Taha's men arrived and surrounded the station, making the atmosphere thick with tension, ready to explode. Fearing they would level the entire station, the inspector made an unbelievably cowardly decision to arrest Lito instead of Taha. The hero became a prisoner, while the devil was set free. The police, who were supposed to protect the people, were now abetting the criminals. More painfully, Taha calmly took back the drugs and dragged Lolo away in front of everyone. Lito looked on bitterly at this rotten society, unable to do anything but swallow his anger. The inspector also sighed, offered an apology, saying he was about to retire and didn't want any more trouble. But to Lito, it was just cowardice. Time passed quietly. 6 months later, Lito was still imprisoned. Every day, he trained his body, preparing for the day he would be free to save his sister. Ironically, the man who lived for justice was locked in a cell, while Taha and his cronies were still running wild outside. He turned Lola into a tool for humiliation, treating her like nothing more than a toy to vent his anger on. Not stopping there, Taha also expanded his influence to other cities, making the situation increasingly dangerous. One day, his gang targeted an armored transport vehicle. They sent 2 children to smear soap on the windshield to blind the driver, then attached a time bomb to blow the door open, quickly hijacking the vehicle and returning to their base. They excitedly opened the cargo bay to check their loot, only to find a time bomb from the military's nuclear project inside. Taha had accidentally activated it, and within 24 hours, all of District 13 would be turned to dust. Upon receiving the grave news, the Minister of Defense acted immediately, seeking out Damien, a seasoned bomb disposal expert, and giving him a life-or-death mission to defuse the bomb and save the 2 million inhabitants of District 13. At that time, within the criminal organization, there was an undercover cop working as a mole, specializing in tracking gambling and money laundering rings. Through the camera system, the criminals discovered the traitor's presence and immediately took action, pushing the secret war to a level of tension never seen before. The boss began to suspect a traitor in the organization. He went mad, drew his gun, and executed a poor henchman. It was in that moment of chaos that Damien was officially exposed. The boss never expected to be led by the nose. Just when he thought he had the upper hand, he fell into a trap. Damien quickly subdued him, using the boss himself as a shield, forcing the henchman to withdraw. He then sealed the door shut and coordinated with the police force above to bring the boss to justice. Just when it seemed everything was under control, after waiting and waiting for his team to drop a cable to pull him up, Damien was forced to take matters into his own hands. With the skills of a seasoned fighter, he broke through the siege, stepping out from among the pack of wolves. The criminals, though numerous, were like small fry before Damien, taken down neatly one by one. They fired like rain, bullets whizzing by, but with reflexes as fast as lightning and the cool demeanor of a protagonist, Damien easily dodged every deadly shot. They had no idea that they were facing a top-tier agent, whose class was far beyond their imagination. After wiping out the criminals without leaving a single one, his team finally appeared to provide support. Mission accomplished, Damien returned and was personally awaited by the Minister of Defense. He was given a greater responsibility. Only 23 hours remained to neutralize the nuclear bomb and save 2 million lives in District 13. The situation was dire because the district was inherently dangerous, with more gunpowder than medicine. Infiltrating it was like walking into a tiger's den. Knowing this difficulty beforehand, Damien's superior had arranged for Lito, who was serving a sentence in prison, to be his partner. Lito was born and raised in District 13 and knew every nook and cranny. He was the only living map that could help Damien. But the problem was that Lito held a deep grudge against the police and would never agree to cooperate. Damien had to resort to a ruse, pretending to be a prisoner brutally beaten by the police, and was then arranged to share a prison transport van with Lito. To gain his trust, he claimed he was arrested for killing one of Taha's men in a deal gone wrong, and now just wanted to escape to get revenge. As soon as he finished speaking, Damien broke the van's door lock and, in a flash, seized the steering wheel. The 2 escorting officers were quickly taken down. He and Lito then sped straight towards District 13. The van raced towards the gate. Damien floored the gas, tearing through the barrier despite the police shouting for them to stop. However, Lito suddenly went silent and then unexpectedly cuffed Damien to the steering wheel with a pair of figure-8 handcuffs. It turned out he knew Damien was an undercover cop from the start and realized he was being used. Lito coldly said he would save his sister himself without any help from Damien. He left the van and charged straight into the familiar battlefield, leaving a furious Damien stuck outside. Before he could even figure out how to get out of the cuffs, Damien had to face another pack of wolves. In this District 13, the bad guys feign friendliness, smiling like beauty queens, but behind their backs, they have a gun aimed at your head. However, they didn't expect that even with his hands cuffed, Damien could turn a disadvantage into a weapon, using the steering wheel itself as a lever to subdue a handsome young man as a hostage, successfully passing the first trial of his deadly journey. Although unfamiliar with every alley of the district, Damien was as sharp as a hunting dog. In just a moment, he tracked down Lito's hiding place and conveniently returned the figure-8 cuffs to him, as a way of affirming he had no intention of confronting him. Damien asked how Lito had recognized his undercover identity so quickly. Lito just smirked and replied that his fighting style and combat stance said it all. Just by observing, one could immediately tell he was an agent, not some gangster. His cover blown, Damien had no choice but to confess everything. That he was forced to act just to get a chance to defuse the bomb in Taha's hands, the thing that threatened to send the entire city back to the Stone Age. Hearing this, the righteous conscience within Lito awoke. He set aside his animosity, extended his hand to shake Damien's, and the two officially became allies. Damien wanted Lito to lead him to Taha's place so he could secretly infiltrate, disarm the detonator, and save his sister Lola. But Lito pulled out his phone and called Taha directly. He announced that he would personally come with an agent to negotiate about the bomb. Damien protested for fear of being exposed, but Lito knew Taha's personality well. He was curious and ambitious and would definitely want to meet in person rather than kill them right away. As predicted, Taha's men appeared immediately afterward, taking both of them to the base without any suspicion. They had no idea that with only 1 hour left before the bomb exploded, no one would have time to enjoy anything ever again. Facing Taha, Damien asserted that only he knew how to disable the code. If not, both he and the 2 million residents would share the same fate in the grave. However, Taha coldly replied that he didn't care because he had already prepared a launch pad to turn the bomb into a mobile weapon that could attack any city he wanted. To add to the terror, Taha also released a giant assassin from his cell to guard the bomb. Anyone who dared to approach would be crushed by him. Then Taha turned and made a business proposal. He wanted Damien to pay $20 million in exchange for safety. With no other choice, Damien pretended to call his superiors to release the funds. Damien had to assert that the transfer was successful. Taha immediately had his account checked, and surprisingly, the bank reported it would take another half hour to process. This bought the two a little more time. Lito knew that if they didn't act soon, the situation would only get worse. He immediately performed a spectacular 360-degree Sano flip and, along with Damien, squeezed into the bathroom area. With his supreme skills, Lito quickly broke the ceiling panel, creating an escape route to the floor below. Despite the bullets from the henchmen whistling through the air, they both managed to escape safely. When he heard that Lito and Damien had escaped, Taha was so angry he executed one of his men to cool off. But before he could calm down, he received another major shock. The government had not transferred any money, and all his bank accounts were frozen. From a man with millions in his hands, Taha instantly became penniless, without a single dime to his name. In this District 13, only money and violence command respect. Now that he had nothing, his henchmen, who had long been dissatisfied, turned against him. They ganged up and threw Taha to another rising power, a notorious mafia gang with 2 leaders covered in tattoos. In just one night, Taha went from being the king of District 13 to a nobody, and the throne fell into new hands. That person proudly declared himself the new boss of the district. The newly crowned gang wasn't foolish enough to burn their own rice bowl, named the Death Bomb, so they immediately sent people to hunt down Damien and Lito. Lito, familiar with the terrain as the back of his hand, climbed swiftly over rooftops. Steep slopes were no different from flat ground. Damien, on the other hand, didn't know any of the alleys, so it was as if he was participating in an unwilling marathon. But this place had long had a reputation for being easy to get in, hard to get out. The army had come here before and had to admit defeat, let alone 2 unarmed men. Back to Lito, from above, he went all out as if the whole world was watching him. His parkour skills were truly top-notch. Every jump, every flip was so smooth and precise that not a single movement was wasted. And so, he gradually widened the distance, leaving the newly empowered gangsters far behind. Despite their wind-like speed, they were still surrounded on all sides. Just when it seemed they were about to share the same fate, K2 suddenly appeared. He not only didn't stop them, but even encouraged them to go defuse the bomb. Damien was utterly surprised. K2 just shrugged and casually dropped a line. "If you guys don't run, why would we chase you?" Damien immediately retorted. "If you guys don't chase, would we be running?" That strange dialogue momentarily eased the tense atmosphere, but time showed no mercy. With only 9 minutes left, Lito and Damien rushed headlong to the upper floor where the bomb was located. Here, they had to face a giant guard weighing nearly 300 kilograms. The gift Taha had left to protect the bomb. Damien charged forward, but how could a normal human's strength compare to this monster? In just a few moves, Damien was beaten black and blue, seemingly unable to get back up. At the critical moment, Leto appeared. He didn't recklessly use force, but cleverly utilized a nearby coil of electrical wire, combined with his fluid movements that had reached a supreme level. In a flash, Leto tightly wrapped up the giant, turning him into an immobile log, his limbs like a broken doll's, unable to fight back. As the giant fell, Damien gathered all his strength and delivered a finishing blow, logging him out of this world in a spectacular explosion. Above, Lola was still chained, watching her brother risk his life to save her. She trembled but was resolute. In a moment of despair, Lola used her foot to kick over a nearby gas can and then struck a match, intending to set it on fire to end her own life, to prevent her brother from having to sacrifice anymore. The flame was about to erupt when Leto rushed in, just in time to prevent the tragedy. There were only 3 minutes left before that terrible bomb would detonate. Time seemed to stand still. Everything was just a countdown, second by second. Damien, in a moment of extreme tension, called his superior to ask for the code to disable the bomb. The official showed a puzzled expression and then coldly said the number 9293B13. Hearing the code, Damien hastily entered it without a moment's hesitation. But Leto immediately felt something was wrong. His intuition told him something was fishy. 9293B13 was the postal code for this district. And he asked the question, if the army truly had no intention of bringing a bomb into District B13, why did the code match so perfectly? This didn't seem like a defusal command, but rather a prearranged detonation command. Could it be that the minister sent Damien not to save people, but to ensure the bomb detonated right here? Damien stubbornly believed it was just a coincidence. The two then engaged in a fierce battle. Damien, with his elite agent skills, had the upper hand. Leto, though not possessing the same high-level combat skills as his opponent, his tenacity and grit made him not so easy to defeat. Despite this, Damien's strength and experience gradually overwhelmed him. He approached the control panel to enter the code. At the last moment, Lola suddenly rushed in to stop Damien, her face streaked with tears, but her eyes firm. She believed in her brother completely. The three of them stood in silence. Only the sound of the bomb's clock counting down the seconds remained. The bomb stopped. It didn't explode. Damien was stunned, a mix of emotions, both relieved and bitter as he realized he had been deceived by his superiors. The three of them carried the bomb outside together. Surprisingly, the gangs in the district didn't stop them but let all three leave, as if their courage had made everyone bow their heads in respect. When they brought the bomb to confront the superior, both Leto and Damien simultaneously threatened him, forcing him to tell the truth. The minister had to confess that the government never had any intention of saving District B13. They saw it as a stain on society and wanted to use the bomb to wipe it clean. Furthermore, the explosion would be staged to blame the gangsters, turning the deaths of millions of people into an excuse for the outside society to feel relieved. But that dirty trick failed because the entire confession was filmed by a reporter through a window and broadcast live on national television. It turned out that Damien had secretly arranged it beforehand, turning his superior's lies into irrefutable evidence. In the end, Damien and Leto parted ways. Leto was given a large reward, but he didn't leave. He returned to District B13, a place full of blood and crime, but also the place where he belonged. Damien said that the 2 million people here needed a hero like him. Leto gently shook his head, replying that they didn't need a hero. What they needed were schools, hospitals, and a police department. As for him, he would stay, live, and stand shoulder to shoulder with the people as a part of a District 13 that would never disappear. The movie ends here. Thank you for watching the entire video. Don't forget to like, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell to receive the latest from us soon.